promise I'm not doing a bit. This isn't a joke or I'm not exaggerating. But this is the moment I stopped watching Doctor Who.
That's not bad.
And I haven't watched an episode since.
We've got a match today, pub league. We're one down if you fancy it.
Pub league? A drinking competition?
No.
I've been hating James Corden since before it was cool. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I'm Saladino.
Yes, we know.
We know everything. Thanks.
And you know nothing. It's a shame you're not a woman anymore. Because she'd have understood.
We've got all that power, but there is a way to get rid of it. Something a male-presenting Time Lord will never understand.
Here it is again. The smirk of social justice. I have no idea what this woman is being smug about. All right. So she's sitting here listening to Donna and her child, her kid, her offspring, shit on the doctor, essentially. You know, what they're saying doesn't make any sense. Like, how can she just sit there in this wheelchair, look at these two entities being smug and obnoxious to the doctor, whose entire life is about saving the universe? But they're telling him that because he's male presenting, that essentially him looking like a man means that he will always lack the knowledge and understanding a woman would have in any given situation. It's your appearance that defines who you are. And if that's the case, I don't get why this woman in this wheelchair of all people is being smug about their nonsense point. Because again, if appearances define who you are, then what does that say about her sitting in a wheelchair?
God will never understand.
Does it mean that she's mentally impaired because she's physically impaired? Are we supposed to get that from her being in a wheelchair? And as far as this trans woman goes,
you'll never see me again.
You're assuming he as a pronoun.
What does that say about this person? You know, this Michael Jackson impersonator. Rose. I love how Russell T Davies is going out of his way to troll fans by bringing up like these references to the past. Because obviously, you know, when in the episode Donna is yelling for Rose and the doctor is like, Rose? Rose is here too? But no, it's, you know, this entity. And it's like, okay, I'm going to do the member berries thing and be like, hey, remember Rose? Here's Donna. Remember Donna? You know, his tenant as a doctor, right? Member berries. Remember. But in this case, you know, it's really like he's only bringing them up to shit on them, right? So he's turning member berries into dingleberries or something, I guess. I don't know. And I legitimately, when I first saw this picture of the doctor, because I hadn't watched the episode, I just saw the couple of clips. Like I said, I haven't watched Doctor Who since that James Corden episode. I've already been down on the show. And once they turned the doctor female, it was like, I know I'll never be able to come back, because once you do something like that, you can't just go back to what fans want. They got to keep doubling down, because the doctor being a woman was a complete failure, a miserable failure. And they can't just go, okay, we tried it. It didn't work out. Let's just go back to white men as the doctor. No big deal. Let's just do that. You can't do that. So when Russell T Davies was coming back, it didn't seem to me that he really wanted to bring the show back to its former glory. You know, the fact that he picked this gay black guy, I don't know if the guy is, well, this queer black guy to be the doctor. It's like, come on, just go back to what people want from a Doctor Who show. So it wasn't enough for him to just go, okay, I'm going to give you guys a gay black guy to be the doctor. No, he's got to do all this other dumb stuff along with it. And the fact that he would bring Tennant back only to have Donna and her offspring shit on him as if just being a man, forget the doctor's 60-year history. None of it matters, because these two entities have decided that they know better. You know, we know everything and you know nothing. Like, it's so hateful. And the look on his face. So when I first saw this picture, maybe it's because he's older or whatever, but it was something that almost like hurt my heart. Looking at this picture, the look on his face. It's like, this is what it means to be a fan, a geek in 2023. And all the bullshit that feminists and activists have put in shit that men love and grew up with and enjoy, that now these bitter feminists have taken over. And you get these gay guys and these trans people just shitting on all of it. And it's clear that Davies isn't coming back to make things better. And he doesn't really care if the show is successful. You know, Disney, I think, is co-funding it. I know it's supposed to be streamed on Disney Plus. And when people announced him coming back, I felt like, yeah, he's not going to do a good job. Obviously, he's not going to wipe out any of the stuff that Chibnall did. He even went so far as to say, no, Chibnall was my friend. We're keeping that stuff in. And I feel like that's why he's doing a lot of this troll stuff now. Because it's not just the stuff he's actually put in the show and what he plans to do going forward, apparently. But it's literally him responding to fans. The whole thing about the Davros being a wheelchair user, and so we had to change that. That's the kind of stuff. I've talked about that in other videos. Like there was the Eurogamer review of Forspoken, and how the reviewer went out of her way to pretend that these guys in this fantasy world, these soldiers, calling Frey a monster was somehow a racial slur. But the panel she was in front of people who was also worried about her being a monstrosity or whatever, included black women and a Japanese dude, and, you know, some Mediterranean looking woman, some Latin woman. So it was fake outrage. You could see when Davies talks about why he wants to change Davros.
A brilliant scientist from the planet Skaro, Davros first appeared in Doctor Who in the 1975 story Genesis of the Daleks. He was depicted as a wheelchair user with a disfigured face and a fanatical dedication to the Daleks. But on set today, Davros is looking quite different.
We had long conversations about bringing Davros back because he's a fantastic character. Time and society and culture and taste has moved on, and there's a problem with the Davros of old in that he's a wheelchair user who is evil. And I had problems with that, and a lot of us on the production team had the problems with that, of associating disability with evil. And trust me, there's a very long tradition of this.
You can see right away from his body language, the way he rolls up his sleeves. It's like he's about to stick his hand in the toilet to unclog it, right? Like he starts holding his hands out like he's this eminent professor, where he's like, trust me, bro, the disabled has been portrayed as evil villains throughout history. There's a long history of that. And me and everyone else at the BBC agreed that this was a terrible, problematic thing. And we're doing this for modern audiences. He is full of shit. He knows he is. That's why he's talking the way he is. Like he's combative about it. Like he's insisting. He's pressing it because he knows no one has ever looked at Davros. I need living Dalek tissue. Nobody's ever looked at that dude and thought, wow, he's in a wheelchair. That makes me wonder about people in real life in wheelchairs. Nobody's ever thought of him as a wheelchair user. We all look at him like, well, he's part Dalek. It makes sense. Like he's riding around half alienoid, half Dalek. You know, like, and even if he was actually, if we did consider him being in a wheelchair, nobody's like equates that with real life disabled people. Nobody does. This is what activists, SJWs, feminists do though. They victimize everything so they can have power over it. This is so obvious, and it's silly that we live in this environment now that people are supposed to pretend that these are the good guys, that they're the moral ones, when they're clearly cynical, they're manipulative, they're hateful people. Like, even now that he said that, it's not one of those things where it's like, now you can't unsee it. Russell T Davies has brought up the fact that subconsciously, subliminally, you've always seen Davros as evil because he's handicapped. And therefore, you looked around in the world and seen the disabled and thought of them as evil people. That's not one of the things where you can't unsee it now. I've shown you the truth of your evil nature. No, nobody thinks that. When people think of, like, if you're a geek or a gamer or a nerd or geek adjacent, the first thing you probably think of a person in a wheelchair in popular entertainment is Professor X. You probably struggle to think of, somebody else in a wheelchair. Like who else? Like who's evil? Who's been portrayed as evil that's been in a wheelchair? Mr. Glass. But Mr. Glass also walks around with a cane. I don't think of Mr. Glass in a wheelchair, really. I think of him walking around in his cane. So it doesn't make sense the way he's trying to frame it. you know, unless you just have to step back and admit, no, he's trolling. He's doing this because he wants to take something from the fans. He knows that, you know, geek fans are very lore obsessed. We care about those details. You know, I didn't see this myself on social media, but I was watching Disbrew, one of his videos about this, and he's showing Davies literally like laughing and insulting fans who are pointing out that it doesn't make sense to frame Davros as a wheelchair user, simply. And then someone else brought up the Cybermen and like, well, are you going to change them? You know, since they have cybernetic parts or whatnot. And he's laughing. It's like, who cares? Get out of here. Ha ha ha. I really do think that he's just having a bitch fit because his friend Chibnall, you know, failed with the female doctor. And so, yeah, I look at this picture of Tennant and I feel bad for him, even though he took the job. And I feel like you need men like Tennant, successful men, to fight back against this. But unfortunately, so many of them are captured by this ideology. I don't know, but I still feel bad for him, even though he took this job. Looking at the look on his face. And I also feel bad for us. I mean, I stopped watching Doctor Who, like I said, way back when Gordon first appeared on the show. But it was one of those things where I always felt like, when it gets better, I'll come back to it. As things stand now, I'll never go back to Doctor Who. Doctor Who is dead. In this picture, you know, if there's a smirk of social justice, I don't know what this is called, but I think this is us.